absolutely plans to talk to any and everybody, and that is why they are afraid. The fact that he said I have a quote-unquote street girl persona, I'm sorry, but anybody that you talk to knows my credentials. They know that I've gone to school. They know that I'm educated. I never tried to put on some random story about where I came from, but at the end of the day, I am who I am, and I am authentic. And that is actually what they are fearful of, is my authenticity, because it rings true with every single American, whether they're a Texan or not. It rings true that I am fighting for real everyday people.
And Jasmine Crockett. Oh, Jasmine Crockett. The record speaks for itself. She wants to be a senator, though her street girl persona is about as real as her nails.
Very nice.
And Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is back here with us. So, Congresswoman, let's start right there.
Look at her face. She look perturbed, to put it. She looks perturbed. Let's see.
With the way that the vice president speaks about you, the caricature he tried to make of you at this conservative youth conference, I think every black woman heard what he was trying to say there.
That has nothing to do with every black woman, because if it did, believe me, he would have said that. It only has something to do with this black woman. Why do y'all take, and you're all supposed to be black women, y'all all supposed to be snowflakes, y'all all supposed to be so different, but when you feel like, that's what this is derived from, when you feel like some person, white folks in particular, when they say something about a black woman, he talking about all black women. Say something about any black woman, you'll talk about all of them. No, just this one. This fake ghetto lady right here.
It's extra laughable in a way, because what precedes this moment is him coming out, to an entire pyrotechnic show and rock music and fanfare for, him to comment on your flair. But what do you think he's trying to say there? What do you think he's trying to signal at a conference like this to an audience like this?
Well, first of all, he's trying to rile up his base, because right now we know that no matter if we're looking in Deep Red, Tennessee, Mississippi, or Georgia, we know that we're swinging no less than...
Here's what I see with this lady. I'm gonna let it play. She starts off cup. This lady's pissed. This lady is pissed. But the whole thing is, you started all this. And don't get mad when someone retaliates. So let's continue.
10 points. And unlike what we've had historically in Texas, because I know that you talked about the Texas dream of turning us blue, is that we have a candidate in me who absolutely plans to talk to any and everybody, and that is why they are afraid. The fact that he said I have a quote-unquote street girl persona.
Here you go.
I'm sorry,
Here
but anybody that you talk to knows my credentials. They know that I've gone to school. They know that I'm educated. I never tried to put on some random story about where I came from, but at the end of the day, I am who I am, and I am authentic. And that is actually what they are fearful of, is my authenticity, because it...
Like, hold on a second. So why is that, like, me as a man, when I hear women flaunt their education, that's negative to me? That's negative to me, because you could go and follow some type of curriculum you think that ups your value to men, or it ups your value, period. It actually does quite the opposite. I don't know why y'all taunt y'all education and this, that, and the other. You have an education, that doesn't make you smart. That shows that you could follow A, B, C, D. It shows when you want to, you can have some type of discipline to achieve whatever this piece of paper that you're going after. Educated, okay, fine. You can be the smartest motherfucker in the world and not have a degree. That's all it is. We'll all go get that and be the smartest motherfuckers in the world. Majority of the population can be just smart educated motherfuckers, and that'll make us better somehow. Now that don't make no sense. None.
Rings true with every single American, whether they're a Texan or not. It rings true that I am fighting for real everyday people. And instead of talking about policy, when you're talking about the record speaks for itself, baby, let's talk about your record. Because the only reason you're the vice president is because the current president tried to have his last president killed. Let's talk about qualifications. Let's talk about who has actually been fighting for people way before she ever ran for office, whether it was in the courtroom or if it was in the streets, making sure those that were out there wanting to exercise their constitutional right to come together and protest injustices. I was representing pro bono people that were getting arrested as they were out in the streets. So listen, I don't have time for him and their games. They are scared and they should be scared. I need Texans to focus in. I need them to think about the fact that our 2 senators literally just voted against extending the Affordable Care Act tax subsidies that would help almost an additional almost 4 million people that are on the marketplace in a state where we have 5 million that are completely uninsured. They basically are trying to put another 4 million people off of their insurance. And this is before we endure the cuts that are coming because of the big ugly bill where we know 17 million people in this country are going to lose their health care. Listen, I'm staying focused. I'm not going to be distracted. And when they can tell me about their policies that are helping Texans, then we can have a conversation. Until then, take whatever shots you want to take at me because I have been a black woman my entire life.
Oh, Lord.
I promise you, there are other people just like JD Vance who have tried to do the same racist tropes my entire life. And somehow I ascended and became a U.S. Congresswoman. It will not be different when I become a U.S. Senator. And we can have a conversation when I get to the Senate floor if he wants to talk.
Congresswoman, I'm so glad you brought up policy. I went back and I watched your launch speech.
Well, you just did absolutely nothing to help your case. Any interview that you do, you should just focus on what you're going to do for the people. He said this about me. Well, maybe the answer should be, he has his opinion about me is not true. But here's what I'm going to do for my potential constituents. Or how about this? This is what I have already done as a representative of the state of Texas. That's it. No, that's it. People are going to talk about you because you bring this shit on yourself. Someone tells you you are fake as your nails. Yeah, I agree with him. I'm not going about all this racist type, this, that, and the other. Let me tell you something. I don't give a fuck if JD Vance is racist. He probably could be. JD Vance is a bad motherfucker. In a good way. He would make a fantastic president. I don't give a shit if he's racist. I don't care. He has a person of color as a wife. Just like a lot of these Democratic women claim that white folks are so racist, and who the first person that they go marry? These black ones, Ilhan Omar and Tangi Brown Jackson and Kamala Harris. Who the first person they go marry? A white man, and they are a person of color. So that's kind of the equivalent of that. If he was racist, I just don't think he would be with his POC wife. I just don't think that's the case. Oh, and let's go ahead and say this. They have children. So if he racist, he don't like his wife, he don't like his kids. Just like when all of y'all claim racism, when y'all married to white men, some of y'all even say they're the greatest threat to America. These men that y'all married to, these white men. What? Not white. White. These white men. But y'all share a bed with them every night. You motherfuckers are lost in all type of white male sauce. Let's continue.
About your campaign for Senate, and a lot of it was talking about the back and forth with Trump and other people who have put you down over the years, but there really wasn't that much about policy, so I want to give you the opportunity now to talk a little bit about that.
Oh, just a great
Affordability
question,
is on
lady.
everyone's minds. You talked about extending the ACA subsidies. Can you give us like a couple of other examples of policies that you would fight for to help Texans, your constituents, on affordability issues if you were granted a seat in the Senate?
Yes.
Yeah, so first of all, I think we need to raise the minimum wage. We have not done that in a national way, and so Texas is not taking it upon themselves, so the minimum wage is still $7.25. We can start to go ahead and put more money into working people's pockets. And whether you're a minimum wage worker or otherwise, we know that once you raise the minimum wage, everyone else's wages go up. We know that costs are going up to the extent that we know that when people were showing up in those food lines, as the president was sending $40 billion over to Argentina, instead of making sure that people that are supposed to get their SNAP benefits had their money, we know that there were a lot of working class people. We have somehow decided that in this country, we were okay with 2 senators from Texas voting to make tax cuts for billionaires permanent, while at the same time not being okay with making sure the tax subsidies that are temporary are available as it relates to health care. We also know that we are
I mean, I don't know who else is gonna say this. Tax cuts for billionaires is totally fine with me. Hello? Like, does anyone understand this? The billionaires are the one that create jobs, employ people. They're already billionaires. They need every break that they can get. They get it anyway. If they're a billionaire, they pay millions and hundreds of thousands of dollars to write off every fucking tax that they can. First of all, I don't think it's true what they're saying about these billion-dollar tax cuts. You know what that means? It all trickles down. If billionaires getting a tax cut, millionaires getting a tax cut, 100,000aires getting a tax cut, 60,000 millionaires are getting a tax cut. You're gonna see that once you file for your taxes this year, and I can't wait to see all these people come online and tell us about how much you got back in taxes because of Donald Trump's policies. Yeah, if they do tax cuts, it's gonna affect everyone. Billionaires, millionaires, 100,000aires, 80,000aires, 60,000aires, 40,000aires. It's gonna affect people who don't even fucking work because they have upped the child tax credit and this, that, and the other. But no, Democrats don't even mention those type of things.
In Texas, and we do trading big. We are one of the largest trading states in this entire world. And with that, we know that we are experiencing record bankruptcies from a lot of our small businesses because of the tariff policies that this president has decided he wanted to implement. It is time to rein him in.
That's not true.
It is time to implement some sort of checks and balances because he has exceeded his power. We also know that ultimately, when I came down to making this decision, the Senate is the one that actually has oversight over the Supreme Court. It is time for us to actually exercise some oversight.
Nope.
And this is the only court, the highest court in the land. It's the only one that does not have any type of ethics that they have to follow. I think that we need to look at that. In addition to the fact, anyone who gets a lifetime appointment has to go through the Senate. And so it's time for us to make sure that we have someone who has been in those courtrooms and can make sure that the right judges are on the benches.
Congresswoman, I wanted to...
So what that means is they want to appoint some more Democratic judges because the Supreme Court is definitely more conservative. And in my opinion, more often than not, I don't agree with every single decision that they make because normally it goes more conservative because it's a 6-3 majority for them. But more often than not, I think they make decisions on what makes sense. Because if you listen to those 3 more liberal type judges that argue certain points. One of them in particular, Ketanji Brown Jackson, she sounds like an idiot. She don't even sound like she know what she talking about. And she was appointed by Joe Biden because Joe Biden said, I'm gonna put a black woman up there. He didn't say nothing about qualifications, potential, none of that. Because it's about qualifications and potential and record and all these type of things. And meritocracy, it most likely would have been a older white man, probably 40s and above, or it would have been an older black man, 40s and above. Judge. Why you gonna come out here and say this and then say it's not about DEI, but if somebody says she's a DEI appointment, it's offensive? But when you came out and said it was about DEI, but when somebody say it's about DEI, oh, that's offensive. And she has demonstrated since she's been on the court, Ketanji Brown Jackson, look at it, married to a white man. She's an idiot. She is a Supreme Court judge and she is a straight buffoon.
If I can talk to you a little bit about Israel, it's an issue that's obviously coming up and an important one for Democrats in their primaries. You've been recently asked a lot about Israel. There's been some criticism about your voting rights. There was a clip that went viral recently of you saying you should look at your record. I had a chance to look at some of your record on some of the Israel issues. In April of 2024, you voted yes on the Israel Security Supplemental Bill, which sent billions of dollars in military assistance to Israel. It did not condition aid on a ceasefire or humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza. There was also multiple letters that were circulated by members of Congress that specifically called on conditioning aid to humanitarian aid going into Gaza. You did not sign those letters. I just want to give you a chance to clarify your record for voters in Texas who have been pressing this issue now, and give you a chance to respond. What do you say to those who are anxious or nervous or concerned about your support for human rights when it comes to Israeli violations against Palestinians?
See, I'm going to give MS Now a little bit of credit. While they're not going as hard as I think they should, I think in this particular interview, I think they're being fair. It is fine. Ask her questions. You don't have to be combative or anything but just ask her questions. Ask her questions about this and about that. So me saying this about this MS Now, which formerly is MSNBC, I think they're being pretty fair. They're being pretty good. And these are legitimate questions that a lot of people want to know. Like, for instance, one of the things, the previous lady, a lot of people saying, Jasmine, you don't have no policies. The lady asked her, what are some of your policies? The other thing that people are really on her case about is that you support Israel. People say Israel is committing a, I'm not going to say that word that starts with G because, YouTube's sensitive about that. And my opinion on that whole thing is I just go by what they did to Gaza. The place, they made it into a parking lot, if you know what I'm saying. So, and she's not getting paid by any committee, so she just supported Israel for free. I'm not saying Israel is wrong or right. I'm just saying what I see. And I think this is fair. This is fair.
Yeah, so I've got countless letters that I've signed on to as it relates to the people of Gaza and what's taking place. In fact, we just signed on to another one just this week. We have signed on to letters that have gone directly to Netanyahu about things that are taking place. We signed on to a letter just this week that was going directly to the president about this ceasefire and concerns about the fact that it's not actually a ceasefire right now and there's been violations. And so I will continue to do that. In addition to that, there was a viral clip that was literally clipped, that was cut short, that specifically was asking me about the April package that I voted yes on. And on that April package, it also sent aid to Taiwan. It also sent aid to Haiti. It also had aid for Gaza. And so, you know, when you're in the minority, which is what we are, we don't write the bills. But what we were able to do when we ended up voting no on two other measures, one was to send aid to Israel and nothing else. Another was to send aid to Israel and to defund the IRS. I voted no on that. We then took those no votes. We then applied pressure to make sure that we could get aid for others in a package because the Republicans were not interested whatsoever. And yes, there were defensive arms that we voted for as well. But when you're in a divided government, as we've been in, you vote for what's on the floor and you get sometimes not necessarily a perfect bill, but truly,
And what she says is true. You vote for things that are put in front of you and you don't get all you want. But your track record says you voted every single time in support to Israel. Every single time. And you're not even getting paid for it that we know of. So why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?
Absolutely believe that we had to make sure that we got aid in for those others. So when that video clip ended, it said I voted for all the supplementals. That is exactly what I was talking about. That April supplemental that I was asked about, it was supplementing those other countries as well.
All right, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, we appreciate your time. We look forward to having.
So yeah, that's gonna be the end of this particular video. I'm like, so the bottom line of this particular video is that she's running for Senate. She said some of her policies, like, I don't know how much her policies are going to benefit the people of Texas or anybody. So the minimum wage is $7. I think it's $7.35. I mean, so what if it's raised to $15? Who's that gonna benefit? I think the average living wage in this country to be okay is closer to $20-something, but then that's artificial. We live in a capitalist society. You raise that, this goes up. That's just the way it works. You don't just give people money out of thin air. Leave the minimum wage alone and let the markets dictate what happens. Let the markets dictate what happens. These companies know what it is. If these companies bring in a person paying them $7.35 an hour, guess what they gonna get? $7.35 an hour worth of work. If they bring in someone and paying them 22 hours, for the most part, it's not always the case, and I'm never gonna deal in absolutes. You bring them in at $22 an hour, for the most part, in most cases, you're gonna get $22 an hour worth of work. These companies aren't dumb. So why are you gonna make them lose all that money? Because then they're gonna cut back. I mean, they'll just cease to exist. What you need to do, if you're a legislator, is make it easier and better for these companies to operate and do business. Make it easier for these billionaires and this, that, and all that. They're the ones who are making the jobs. Of course, we always hear about the largest companies, the Walmarts, we hear about the Targets, the giant companies. But the backbone of this company, the backbone of this country is not that. Of course, they have all these jobs, but the greater majority of the job creators are not these giant corporations. It's not. It's corporations that are much smaller than that. For instance, like in Chicago, Brandon Johnson wants to do this head tax. Thank God their city council rejected it, but he wants to tax companies per employee. And it was starting at companies that have minimum 500 people, $33 a head, every month for 500 people. That is the great majority of job creators in this country, is those companies right there. Of course, these bigger companies have 100,000 employees. In the case of Walmart, we got Walmart has more than 2 million or something like that. But that's one company. That's one company. You have 350 some million people in these United States, and that's including everybody. Teenagers and babies and people who are not working age and this, that, and the other. That is not the great majority of this country that are job creators. The great majority of this country of job creators is exactly those companies that Chicago want to tax. Those companies with 500 people or more. 500 people. A company with only 500 people, and you're going to put a $33 tax on them per employee per month. That is crippling. That is fucking crippling to that company. So we're going to be done with this. Like this video, comment on this video, share this video. This is Mr. Info 5000, Mr. Info 500.